welcome to another episode of the Roland Rock Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky McVey, and I'm here with my co-host, Roland Robinson.
Hey, everybody.
My other co-host, Rene Canas.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
And this week we're joined by a new special guest, a longtime friend of mine, James Setzer.
Hello, everybody. I'm the virgin podcaster here tonight.
We were all had our cherries popped at some point or another. Ours just happened a while back. Me and Roland
exactly right.
A time ago. Anyway.
You bunch of old fucks, man.
I'm the oldest one of them all.
Yeah, how old are you now, Setzer? What, 55? Is that how old you are?
54, man. Don't age me another year.
65? Are you 65 yet?
Getting ready to hit that senior moment.
That's exactly right.
Well, this week, guys, the podcast is, we're doing a versus. It's going to be a little bit different than our normal cast. We're going to do two of our favorite things versus each other and declare a winner at the end. And none of us know who the winner is going to be because we're not going to vote until the end of this cast on who our winners is, and whoever has the most votes wins. But this week, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Sylvester Stallone. Who's the greatest action movie star of the 1980s? And the way I thought we would start this is we would talk about their two original movies, Arnold, Hercules, and New York. You want to talk about a shit film? That's a shit film right there. Arnold doesn't even voice in it. They overdub him.
And not well.
Is he actually Arnold Strong?
Yeah, they don't even call him Arnold Schwarzenegger when it originally came out. They gave him a different
I've never seen it. I'm the oldest, but I've never seen it.
I've seen it.
I've seen it too. It's not a good movie.
It's a shitter.
And Stallone's first film, and this has been a big controversy for, I don't know, like his whole career. The Party at Kids and Studs. And can you guess who Sly Stallone was?
Is he the stud?
He's the stud.
Rocky goes X-rated.
It was X-rated. It was an X-rated movie. And there's been controversy around this his whole career that he got started by doing porn. However, I have seen this movie, and there is no hardcore scenes in this movie. There is nudity, but there is no hardcore sex. But there is a thing that went around for a long time that said that the movie was cut when it was put out, and originally it had all kinds of hardcore footage in it, but they cut it all out before they released it. But a group of people have got a hold of the copy, the original print later on, and they say that's a complete lie. The original print had no hardcore scenes in it too. So Stallone did not start with a porno, even though it's been said for years.
You know, looking at it, it's an Italian stallion production. It cost $5,000 to make it. So
that's also not true. That was only put on him. That was only put on the movie after he became Rocky. After they started.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was not on the original movie. This movie has been like completely edited to make more money because of him becoming Rocky. If that had never happened, it would never be an Italian stallion production. There's lots of things about this movie. It's like involved. Everybody thinks it's porn. It's not done by the company that it says it's done by now. It's like completely. It's just.
So it's kind of an urban legend, right?
Yeah. And if you saw it today, it probably wouldn't even be a rated R. I mean, well, it probably would be a rated R because it's got nudity in it, but it definitely wouldn't be like a NC-17 movie. It's not that bad. Of course, there's like I've actually seen rated X movies that I would think probably wouldn't even be a PG-13 movie today. Because they don't. Rated X movies were not like that bad. And then what's funny is then you had like in the 80s, PG movies were like more hardcore than what rated X movies were in the 60s and 70s.
So you heard it here first. The Rolling Rock podcast, rated X films before 1980. Okay for the whole family to watch.
I wouldn't say that because most of them suck. I don't know. One of the biggest movies that's ever been like put out that was rated X was Valley of the Dolls. Have you guys ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's a
Heard of
rated
it.
X movie. Andy Warhol was involved in it. It fucking sucks from beginning to end. But there is nothing in that movie that I would say bad. I don't even remember a set of tits in that movie. And I don't know why it was rated X. Maybe because they were doing drugs. I have no idea. But it still sucks. It's just a shitty movie.
Listen, this is going to be my official statement on this, on that. If I'm going to watch a rated X, and I don't see one boob, that's false advertisement. That is not as advertised.
Boobs are get the fuck out, according to Roland. So anyways, I'll let you guys get going. We've discussed the two originals. We can get into like the real movies now, the ones that actually made them the big stars they are today. So you want to go first, Roland?
All right, so I was looking through Arnold's filmography, and I should have been looking through slides too, because I'm a little bit more of a Schwarzenegger fan than I am Stallone, but both have got amazing films. So with Schwarzenegger, you have Hercules in New York. That was, I want to say, 1970. And it was, like I said, it was like a real shitter of a film. You go 14 years almost to his next big breakaway film. And it's his first film. And by God, one of my top 5 favorite films. And I think in our top 5, it was on my top 5 list. Conan the Barbarian. Not the Destroyer. The Destroyer that happened 2 years later was a turd. But Conan the Barbarian, a fucking amazing ass film. And I'll fight anybody that says otherwise. That film was awesome. And then, so one of the earlier Sly movies that I remember, I want to say, is Rocky, the first one. And I cannot remember the year it came out.
I didn't come out till 76.
Yeah, 76. Yeah.
I can't believe
yeah.
though that you're skipping over one of my favorite. I'm not going to say Sylvester Stallone movies, but he's a major part of the movie.
What's that?
Death Race 2000.
Oh shit! I
forgot about that one.
Yeah, I totally forgot he is in that one. He's one of the
Fucking Machine Gun Joe.
Yep. Oh shit!
Hey, David Carradine was in that one too.
Yeah, he was a
main star. He's
the main bad guy.
Movie.
What was it, or Frankenstein or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was fun as shit. But I think between the two, that I would have to say, between those two big breakout movies, I would say Rocky is probably the better drama. Between them, overall, just there's more heart, I think, in Rocky than there is Conan. But still, one of my favorite films is Conan, because it's freaking swords and sorcery, and Arnold is built like a fucking god in that. He is built like a brick shit house. So I'm going to say better action star in that one's probably going to be better movie, probably Rocky. Better action star, Arnold and Conan the Barbarian.
I'm a big fan of the first Rocky movie.
Oh, I am too. I'm not saying it's a bad film.
It's no. I mean, it's a great film, and like, you know, Stallone wrote the script, and no studio wanted him to play the role because he was such a unknown at the time.
I was going to say, didn't he sit on that script for a long time?
Yeah, so he based the script after watching Chuck Wepner versus Muhammad Ali, which no one gave Wepner any chance in hell, and he like knocked down Ali during the fight, and he went and wrote the script, and they actually, I believe they wanted James Caan at the time to play Rocky, and they offered it to a few other people, but like they pretty much did not want him in it. And Stallone was basically like, "Look, it." He's like, "I don't even care." Um, he's like, "I'm not gonna let you guys make this movie without me in it." He's like, "I don't care how broke I am. I will go bury this script in my backyard, and no one will ever see it." And he held on to his guns, and um, it was such a low budget movie, but like he ended up being nominated for best actor, as did um, Burgess Meredith as Mickey. So did I'm blanking on his name, but the guy that played Paulie was nominated. Adrian, the actress that played Adrian, was nominated. The director was nominated. Best original script. Like it got like 7 or 8 nominations. Best director. And it's not something you see in. It's crazy with that movie is, you know, like any sports movie you watch now, you expect Rocky's gonna win, and it's what I feel is missing nowadays is like sometimes you gotta let the main character lose. Um, he just wanted to go the distance and prove his point, and it's such a great performance, man. Um, and the soundtrack to the movie, come on, Gonna Fly Now, and you could almost say it led to like one of the more popular tropes in movies too, is the montage.
Because that film does have one of the best montages in it.
Yeah, I mean, running up the steps, man. Come on.
I mean, running up the steps has now became like it's the thing that tourists do like every time they go there. Like you go there to run up the steps to be Rocky. Like that's not even like a they have like a whole day where they like honor that movie. So I mean, it's not like it, I this is when you're going to compare these two movies, because I mean they are like both their breakout movies, I guess you'd say. This is really hard. Like fucking Conan the Barbarian is a great movie. Like I have never like anytime that I'm passing movies when I'm just flipping through channels and I see Conan or Rocky, I stop and start watching them. so so it's hard to like decide which one of those I could be like which one is better. Rocky is definitely the better like like the drama side, but you can't I mean the acting in Conan is great too.
I mean, James Earl fucking Jones is a villain.
James fucking Jones is it. I mean, come on. Like it's got some great acting in it too.
Max
Even Arnold. Like some of the shit that Arnold does in that movie, I'm like, that's some great acting. Like the part where he's like talking to Crumb and he's like, "To hell with you." I'm like, you feel that. Like I'm like feeling my heart.
This is a totally something not to do with this. But I used to actually know that whole monologue. I actually had that entire monologue memorized. And as long as I would do my Arnold impression, while saying that monologue at a bar, I would get free beer. So
shit, I would never forgot that if
I never did.
Beer out of it.
Back when Beef O'Grady's was in Corbin, I could go down there and get free beer just by doing that entire monologue for people.
Kind of, if you look at both their careers, it both took them a while. If my memory's correct, was What, The Lords of Flatbush? I remember that movie. It had, Henry Winkler. Do you guys remember that one? Was that
Yeah.
a precursor to Happy Days, or was that just kind of in my memory banks for some
So
reason?
that came out before Happy Days or not?
I think it did.
But I had forgotten about that movie. The first Arnold movie I remember watching is The Villain. You guys remember that one?
I don't remember that movie at all, actually.
Seriously?
No.
It had Kirk Douglas and Margaret, and Arnold was the handsome stranger. It was like a Western. It was kind of like a Wile E. Coyote type cartoon, but it was a movie. But you guys don't remember that one at all. You've had Jack Elam. Do you remember him from all the old time westerns? Mel Tillis, Ruth Buzzy.
Yeah.
That one's the first Arnold movie. The first one that made an impact, of course, for me. I remember Conan was probably the Terminator. That was, the movie that came out in '84. That was my big movie where I become an Arnold fan. And, of course, with Stallone, it would be Rocky. I really don't remember, like Lords of Flatbush, I sort of remember. Death Race, I sort of remember. But, with both of those, that was those. And then basically, from '84 until Terminator 2 come out, Schwarzenegger that was his heyday, I think you would say. Commando, I watched that during the pandemic. I caught up on movies during the pandemic, but Commando, Predator, Running Man, Total Recall, Kindergarten Cop. I do not remember. I remember it, but I can't remember the movie Red Heat. Was that one with James Belushi? Was it sort of serious, sort of funny? I can't remember that movie at all.
Yeah, it was kind of at comedic elements. It was sort of like all of John Belushi had a lot of like cop movies he did. James Belushi. And he did a lot of cop movies. And they were always kind of a little bit comedic, but they're always serious. It was the same way with Red Heat. So it wasn't like super comedic, but it had a little bit of comedy into it. While we're talking about it, I want to go ahead and talk about two of my favorite Arnold and Sylvester Stallone movies. And I'm going to compare them to each other because they didn't come out like too far away from each other. But they both involve kids. They're like sort of like the kid movies that you can watch of the 80s action star. And that was Kindergarten Cop and Over the Top.
That's a good one.
Both were.
I'd have to give Kindergarten Cop the nudge on that one.
See, I'm going to go the opposite way. I love Kindergarten Cop, but Over the Top is fucking awesome. And I will fight anybody that says it's not.
Definitely had the better soundtrack.
My favorite scene in Kindergarten Cop that always cracks me up is when Arnold pulls up to like the crack house and he steps out of his car and he's just like, "My name is John and I really like my car." And he just cocks the shotgun and all the crackheads are like, "And we'll watch it for you, man."
I'm Detective John Kimball.
Kindergarten Cop is actually a pretty funny movie. I know Twins came out before that, but I want to say this is probably the first time I saw him in a comedic film. Arnold was a pretty smart guy. He surrounded himself with like Ivan Reitman and stuff like that. So he knew like, all right, if I'm going to be in a comedy, if I'm going to do comedy films, then I'm going to surround myself by people that know what they're doing in comedies, But Over the Top, man, it's as the title implies, it is over the fucking top, man.
It's definitely over the top. It is. There is. I can't even like come up with a scene in that movie that I don't love. Like from beginning to end, like basically like the time. Like, one of my favorite parts of that movie is when he takes his kid into into the arcade and makes him like arm wrestle other kids for money. For fucking money. Like when I watch that now, I'm like, there's no way they put this in a fucking movie today. Like we're teaching like 10-year-old kids to to gamble. and then when one of them runs away crying because they lose, you go out and you say, get the fuck back in there and do what you should have done to begin with. Like, no way that scene would happen in a movie, David. It's okay. You can lose. Fuck you. Get your ass in there and do what you're supposed to do. You little piece of shit.
I love like the competitors in the arm wrestling tournament. Like, got like that one big guy who's like drinking motor oil, and other dudes just like slapping himself to psych himself up. And I forget the main guy who his rival.
I can't remember what his name is now, but he was all, and that was the thing about all of the in that movie. Every single person that was a pro arm wrestle champion was also a truck driver in that movie.
What kind of goes hand in hand?
You were a truck driver and you were a professional arm wrestler. That's exactly what you did. And every single truck stop had a professional setup for arm wrestling. So all truck wrestlers, truck drivers,
Truck wrestlers.
truck wrestlers.
All Stallone had to do, man, was flip his head around, and it was fucking game on.
And then he flipped his hat around, and then he did that whole like thing with his fingers. He'd go over the top.
God,
I love that movie. I don't care what anyone says. Like I said, I will fight anybody that says that's a bad movie.
It's also got Terry Funk in it, man.
Yeah, it does.
We kind of went past it a bit, man. But I definitely wanted to talk about Rocky 3. Also fucking love that movie. I fucking love Mr. T as Clubber Lang in that movie. Such a great villain and shit talker throughout that whole movie, man. It probably has one of my favorite lines in the entire Rocky series, where they ask Clubber, what's your prediction for the fight? And he just looks into the camera and he's like, pain.
No,
And do you guys remember a movie called Dirty Work at all?
Yes.
Where Chevy Chase actually bets against Rocky in Rocky 3. Bit of a tangent, but and that movie also introduced the Rocky statue, which is still up in Philadelphia, by the way.
I will say, I'll put this out there just because there's been a rumor for a while now that Creed 3 will feature Clubber Lang's son, and Mr. T will come back as Clubber.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking hoping that's true.
That'd be awesome.
Supposedly, Clubber Lang was supposed to have a cameo in Rocky Balboa, but for some reason, they never filmed it. Like, he was supposed to be in the stands and was supposed to be talking shit to Mike Tyson, who was in the stands, but they, for some reason, never filmed it. And then, of course, Rocky 4, man, which is basically Rocky the montage movie.
That's true, it is. It is a montage from good to end.
And
you got to remember the big speech in Rocky 4. If I can change, you can change.
Yeah. Rocky stopped Soviet Russia, man, with one speech. And let's not forget, Paulie gets like a sex robot in that.
Yeah.
He practically marries the robot.
In the re-edited Rocky 4, Stallone says he's taking the robot out. I was reading that.
Apparently there's a director's cut of that movie coming out soon, and he said he edited out the robot.
What?
So he hates the robot.
You know,
Yeah, the robot's gone.
I had read that like like when that movie came out in Russia, like it was actually it was hated by the Russian government, and it was like seen as, because I mean it's definitely pro-America. I mean it's all it is like down with Soviet Russia, down with communism is all that movie is. And but when it came out in Russia, a lot of Russians got behind the movie so much that they were like pro-America in Russia from watching Rocky. And it was so it is part of the reason that led to the downfall of the Soviet Union. So that movie's fucking like got a big thing going for it right there.
So what you're saying is it wasn't Gorbachev tearing down the wall. It was Rocky.
It was Rocky. Rocky fucking tore down that wall.
I think that one has my favorite montage of the series, with Drago training in the gym doing steroids and shit, while Rocky's like outside in the Siberian winter climbing up mountains and shit.
Yeah, it's fucking packing lumber like fucking split wood and shit up a fucking mountain.
He's like pulling a fucking horse-drawn carriage on his shoulders. But around Rocky 3 and 4, we probably have the role Schwarzenegger is probably most famous for. It's the first Terminator movie.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
One of the things I think is really interesting about that is because you had Conan the Barbarian, then you had the Destroyer, which was kind of a turd in the punch bowl for in those movies, but he comes right back with the Terminator. And the Terminator, the thing I find very interesting is the main star is the bad guy, and it's a horror film. It's a science fiction horror film.
Yeah, it's very different from the sequel. Whereas the sequel is more sci-fi action. This, like you said, this is more sci-fi horror. I
seen it as a kid, and I remember it just being unsettling almost, because as a kid I'd only come in like halfway through the film. I think one of the first memories I have of that movie was seeing when he walks through and just starts wasting cops in the police station. That was my first. When I think of the Terminator, that's like one of the first scenes I ever seen as a kid, and that's one of the first scenes I still remember today.
Terminator. I mean, I guess when I watch it now, I don't think of it this way. But like, if I think back to like Little Rocky watching this movie, Terminator was kind of fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like, like you think of Arnold as like the good guy now always, but like when I first watched this movie as a kid, it kind of freaked me out. Fucking Arnold is fucking scary in this movie. And even though there's some good comedic lines in that too, but it's not like what you expect. And I have to wonder. I wonder today that if a lot of people, that when they talk about Terminator, if they've even seen the original or if they've just seen 2 on, because no one ever mentions how the first one was really just a horror movie, and like the main guy was the bad guy. I mean, Arnold was the bad guy.
Yeah. Really good performance by Michael Biehn in that too, by the way, as Kyle Reese. And yeah, I always remember that scene, like the one Roland just said, where he walks into the police station and just like mows all the fucking cops down. And I also remember I forget, like he fucks up his face or something and has to like rip out his eye.
Yeah.
I always remember that scene too.
The scene that always gets me is the scene where he thinks they're in the hotel room and he's ripping the door off the coming in. Yeah, that scene was scary as a kid because it was like filmed super dark, and it's just him like and the people in there screaming as he just rips the wall off with his bare hands. like, like there was, I mean, it was had some scary scenes to it.
And then that iconic scene, like Rene was saying, where he gets the side of his head, where they hit him in the side of the head, and it just peels all that back, and you realize, holy shit, he's a freaking robot. Because it's got the red orbital in his eye just moving around. It's like, what the fuck? So yeah, I thought Terminator was great, and obviously it is because look at it, it spawned an entire series of films.
Yeah, but I think we all agreed that after the second one, it kind of starts going downhill a bit.
Downhill a lot, basically. The cool thing, you think about, Rutger Hauer, or whatever his name was, always played a bad guy generally, but, how did Schwarzenegger turn playing the ultimate bad guy into becoming the hero just within a couple of years? Have you ever thought of that? I mean, you got to give someone credit for, a horror movie where he's the bad guy made him famous, but he didn't stay the bad guy. A lot of people that play bad guys stay bad guys throughout their whole careers. So I had never really thought of that until we started talking here tonight. So it's pretty incredible that from 1984 to 1991, when Terminator 2 come out, they had to make Arnold the good guy in 91. So pretty amazing how he turned into the good guy.
Yeah, I think about that, and I'm like, wouldn't it have been awesome? I mean, Arnold was the good guy by 91. Like, we had seen so many movies with Arnold by that point where he was the good guy. How awesome would it have been if they would have made him the bad guy in Terminator 2? Like,
Well, excuse me. The problem with Terminator 2 is I hated that they spoiled the fact that he's the good guy in the advertisements. Because when you're watching the actual movie, you actually don't know which one is the Terminator. And up until Robert Patrick gets shot, you don't realize he's also a fucking Terminator. Because they're both searching for John or whatever, and it isn't until the mall scene when John is in between the two of them and Arnold basically tells them to duck, and they start shooting at each other, and you realize, oh shit, Robert Patrick is also a fucking Terminator. He's not like a human resistance, because they're trying to make it seem like the first movie with having this like small stature guy next to fucking shit brick house Arnold. But then you realize, oh shit, the smaller guy is actually stronger than him. So I just wish that was one thing that the movie hadn't spoiled. But, if you're showing those movies to someone brand new who's never seen the advertisements, it still works. But for us who actually grew up at the time when we got to see all those advertisements, it kind of sucks that they blew that secret in the trailers, basically.
it would be hard to like show that to somebody though that didn't know that Arnold was the good guy. In fact, I think that I think part one would have more impact now on somebody that hadn't never watched the series, because everyone knows that Arnold is the good guy in the Terminator movies now. I mean, like, there's been so many, he's always the good guy. And just think about some of these people going back now and watching part one and what they would think about that movie. Like, no, realizing that Arnold is now the bad guy.
Like, what?
For years of thinking of Arnold as the good guy. Like, I think one would have way more impact than to anybody today than even did back then. I mean, yes, it scared me as a kid, but I didn't think of Arnold as like the good guy when I watched it originally. He was just just a regular. I probably didn't even know who he was at the time when I watched it originally.
So
And
just
you have to give. Go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, and right after Terminator, he made Red Sonja, and he recovered from that. I have no good memories of Red Sonja.
I
like
watched
Red
that.
Sonja, actually.
I watched that just recently. Actually, I watched that. I think it was back in November, and that movie is rough.
Really, I like it.
It is great. It's one of those where you watch it, and it's like, oh man, this reeks painfully of the '80s. 80s kind of just real weird fantasy, but damn if I don't love it.
And another movie I do not remember of his is Raw Deal. Don't remember that one at all.
Oh, that one I don't remember either.
Is after Commando.
Yeah.
But here's the fun thing. Go ahead, Rene.
I was just gonna go back real quick to Terminator 2. In my opinion, that's Arnold's best acting performance is Terminator 2. You guys agree or disagree with that?
Best acting performance?
In Terminator, Arnold's best acting performance is Terminator 2.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Total Recall comes to mind when I think of that.
Yeah.
True Lies.
True Lies. Yeah, that would be it.
But yeah, we're skipping over a lot of Arnold's good years there because after.
No, yeah.
Because you got to look at it after Red Sonja, which did not do well in the box office. It flopped. But it is a film that I loved as a kid. I had a low-key crush on Bridget Nielsen for a lot of my early childhood because I was like, she's pretty. And then I was like, holy shit, Arnold's there. And yeah, it was just really interesting to see that. Also,
and then you saw her with Flavor Flav, and you're like, what the fuck?
She got crazy, like weird as time went on. But you had the main villain in Red Sonja, who was in Conan the Barbarian. It was Conan's girlfriend, I think it was the lady that played Valeria. Turns out to play the main villain, but after that we have one of Arnold's best movies, Commando.
Okay, we're at Commando now. I got to stop for a second. So, since we're comparing here, there's another movie, and I mentioned this before we started the podcast. It's like my theory. There's a movie that came out 1 year after Commando by Sylvester Stallone, and that is Cobra. Both movies are basically revenge movies. Like Conan going after, I'm not Conan, Arnold going after, what's his name? What's the fat dude's name?
Going after
the fat dude in the chainmail over his daughter. And then,
you mean Fat Freddie Mercury?
Yes, Fat Freddie Mercury.
Bennett was the character.
Bennett.
Bennett.
Come on, Bennett, let's party.
Well, he was working for Dan Hedaya though in the movie, I think.
So, fun note about that is Bennett was also the crazy dude with the mohawk and the Road Warrior.
Oh, I didn't realize that until you just said it, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah. He really let himself go.
But Cobra is so. After watching these two movies, I'm like, Cobra is Sylvester Stallone's answer to Commando, and goddamn, did it fail! I'm not saying, I kind of like Cobra, and it's very dark. It's a very dark movie compared to Commando.
I always remember the tagline on the poster, something like "Crime is a disease, meet the cure."
Yeah.
Yeah. well, I think Cobra and Over the Top were both by the people that made the Chuck Norris movies. So they were very, especially Cobra was just cheaply done, and it was just. I watched it. Like I said, I've caught up on a lot of movies. Like I said, when I stayed home for 2 months, but to me, Cobra was a hard watch. I would much rather watch Commando.
Oh, Cobra is like so hard to watch. Like it was hard to watch originally. Like even as a kid, like when I was like big into those type of movies, like it's like so it's filmed so gritty, and it's so like they try to like emphasize the gore in that movie, like as he's killing people, and they try to make
And
it.
Stallone wrote it.
It's not a good movie. I'm not gonna say it is, although I do still kind of like it, but it's not a good movie. But Commando, is it Arnold's best movie? I don't know, but he carries a fucking log. He carries a fucking tree by himself as the movie begins. It is the greatest action movie of the 80s, and I will fight people over that too.
It has one of the best, some of the best scenes. Like you said, it opens up with the motherfucker carrying a tree. A tree. He cut the limbs off and he cut it. And
with
he just
one arm.
And what does he go to? He goes to his loving house where his daughter is, but it's a log cabin that apparently, since this dude's packing a tree, I'm going to assume this motherfucker built this log cabin by himself. Now, we also have the best description of Arnold in this movie. During the mall scene, where they're like calling in, the other cops are calling it in, it's like, blah, 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 we've got this dude, he's going crazy. Like, describe him, he's just, and the guy just goes, one gigantic motherfucker.
The scene that I always remember of that movie, I mean, well, I remember all the scenes of that movie, but like the scene that like always stood out to me was the scene where they made Arnold a sex object in the movie. When the woman is like, the girl is like watching him as he like takes off his clothes to put on like his wetsuit. Remember that scene? And she's obviously wet in her panties when she's watching him. I'm like, it was like, this was like just a straight up scene to be like, come on, ladies. Y'all know you want Arnold in your bed tonight.
The scene or that movie has so many great one-liners by Arnold. My favorite being that one guy who keeps like talking shit to him, and he's like, "You're a funny guy. That's why I'm gonna kill you last."
Remember when I told you I was gonna kill you last, Sully? Yeah,
I lied. And just lets him go.
The best one-liner in that movie to me is when he as at the end of the movie, and spoilers, but if you haven't seen this movie, fuck you. That when he throws the big pipe through Bennett, and he's like, "Let off some steam, Bennett."
One of the other ones is the first guy he kills on the plane. He's just, shoves his nose into his skull and then puts a hat on him and puts a paper up to him. So he's just like, "Listen, don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired." It's like,
you know who made that movie?
What's that?
My favorite scene too is like it's one of those movies that has that montage of where he's like putting on the camouflage, the war paint, knives everywhere, like 50 different guns just being strapped onto his body, and then he's just total definition of the one-man army as he like takes out like 60 fucking guys all by himself. He's like, guys are just blowing to pieces all over. The fucking Death Star blows up, everything, man.
If I remember right, at one point, this movie had one of the highest body counts of any film.
Yeah, it did. It was known for having like such a high body count. He killed so many people in that movie.
Fun story, I'm a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, and I had never seen this movie up until high school, I think, or later college years. And it was you, Rocky, that actually showed
Yeah,
it.
I remember this. I told Roland about this movie and he said he had never seen it. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Go, we're going to watch this movie.
Didn't we rent it, or was it
We
coming?
did. We went to Blockbuster, and I rented it just to make you watch it.
And just so you kids know, Blockbuster was a place called a video rental store.
Nobody's mentioned Ray Dawn Chong in that movie. I mean, she made the movie. I mean, remember he got arrested stealing all the stuff in the surplus store, and she blew up the police thing and got him out. So, I mean, she had some great scenes in that movie.
That scene where she turns the rocket launcher around backwards is fucking hilarious. That's a great scene in the movie too.
Also, just the one-liner in that movie too, where the one guy's like, tells Arnold like "fuck you," and Arnold's response is like, "No, fuck you."
What was it? I eat green berets for you like breakfast. I hope you're hungry, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, he said. Yeah, the guy says, "I'm a Green Beret asshole," and Arnold's like, "Well, I eat Green Berets for breakfast, and I'm very hungry."
Oh, Bill Dukes, great actor.
Well, before we talk a few more Arnold movies, how have we not mentioned Rambo yet?
Oh yeah,
For Stallone. The first movie wouldn't compared to the other Rambo movies, the first one is very such a calm,
very tame.
tame. Yes, that's the word I'm thinking.
Rambo would be a good movie to compare to Terminator.
Yeah.
Because the first movie is really nothing like the rest of the movies. Like, he's kind of like, he's just an insane guy that came back from, he's not insane. Well, kinda. But
he ain't all there.
He's got PTSD, and he's like fighting the cops.
They're kind of assholes to him though, man.
Well, they definitely are, but like, Rambo like destroys a lot of shit in that movie.
Well, and the crazy thing with that movie is like, I think he only kills one guy, and that is like accidentally.
Accidental kill, yeah. There's no body count really in that movie.
Yeah, but I will say this: Rambo is one of my favorite films. I think the first and second one are, in my opinion, first one's extremely good, and I think it's often underappreciated. I think, and sometimes in the series, and often overlooked in favor of two.
I always thought it was weird with those movies is how they named them. So it's like the first one's actually called First Blood, and then it's Rambo First Blood Part 2. And then I think
originally it was First Blood Part 2 Rambo. So like that's one of those movies that they backdated the title and they added Rambo to it later. But it was like the subtitle of, because the movies were named First Blood, and then they had the subtitle of Rambo in Part 2. But then they like flipped it later on as they started making it like Rambo movies to be, the Rambo was the title and First Blood was the subtitle. So it's really a weird thing they did there, because because it's based on a book, and the book is called First Blood. So they flipped it after some years of it coming out.
And then it was Rambo 3, then Rambo, just plain Rambo, and then Rambo Last Blood.
Pretty short-lived series, but takes up a very long time period.
And I think that's
and then go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that to me, Stallone, found the pot of gold with Rocky and Rambo. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, other than the two Terminator films, he was never able to have that long running of movies to bring him back, because, Stallone kind of went through the rut, but he'd always bring out a Rambo or a Rocky movie to kind of pull him back out of things. So, I get, maybe Stallone was just lucky. I don't know.
All right. So around that time, around the Rambo movies, I'd say Stallone's next big movie was Tango and Cash, where him and Kurt Russell team up as, buddy cops or whatever. Kind of a precursor. Trying to think like what would have been like the first like buddy cop movie. Would it be like
not another, but 48 Hours is the first one I really remember.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking right now too. But kind of like precursors to like Lethal Weapon and all that stuff. Yeah, I think the movie's just okay. It There is a line in it that always cracks me up where basically someone mentions Rambo in the movie and Stallone is like, Rambo's a pussy compared to me or something like that. But it has like one of the worst cross-dressing scenes in a movie where like Kurt Russell dresses as a woman.
We're not including him in this like versus, but Kurt Russell is another like 80s action star that could be included in this, even though he's like part of it.
I never liked Tango and Cash. I don't know. Did you all realize that Patrick Swayze was supposed to be in it?
No, I never heard that.
He went on to do Roadhouse and dropped out. So
now there's a fucking crazy movie right there. Like, you want to talk about that's a crazy fucking movie. Makes no sense at all from beginning to end.
No, you're right.
It doesn't. I love that movie. It makes no fucking sense.
I like it too, yeah. Another pandemic watch was Roadhouse.
Like I could see like that movie has one scene in it that I could see happening in any Arnold and Sylvester Stallone movie.
I think I know what you're talking about too.
The scene where he fucking rips a guy's throat out and the roundhouse kicks him in the back. That could be in any Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Maybe not the roundhouse kick. Arnold would probably like shoot him with a rocket launcher or something after he ripped his throat out. But like the fact that he just rips a guy's throat out with his bare hands, fucking crazy.
Yeah. All right. So kind of to go back to Arnold for a bit. The first Predator movie, which is one of my favorite Arnold
Predator's
movies.
Awesome.
That is one of the best films of the 80s period, good sir.
That movie is rated M for manly.
Yeah, it is.
And like it has such a great cast in it, and I'm sure everyone knows the meme.
From All to Die.
Yeah. Everyone makes fun of that meme of like Arnold and Carl Weathers having like the manliest handshake in cinema history.
Oh yeah, Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Another sort of 80s action star that makes the crossover between Sylvester Stallone and Arnold right there.
Carl Weathers.
Yep, Carl Weathers.
Yep.
One of Arnold's greatest movies and also one of Sylvester Stallone's greatest movies. Carl Weathers is in both.
But yeah, that cast is amazing. You had Bill Dukes, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura.
Fucking the body.
The body.
Yeah, he ain't got time to bleed either.
Time to bleed. Son of a bitch is stuck in her, tighter than an Alabama tick.
And come on, man. It's got that long, tall Sally montage or whatever where they're all getting ready. I think I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. Like I said, I love that fucking movie. I think it's a great movie. But if I could change one thing in that movie, is I would not show the alien spaceship arriving to Earth at the very beginning. I would keep that as a surprise that you discover later in the movie.
See, now, I think we had this very same discussion during our 80s top 80 or top films, action films. When I watched Predator the first time when I was younger, I always missed that scene for whatever reason because I always seen it on HBO when I was over at my uncle's house because he had HBO, and I'd always, for some reason, every time I just so happened to watch it, I'd always miss like the first 3 or 4 minutes of the film. So for me, that was like, holy crap. It is like some kind of crazy monster in the jungle. And then what kind of, and so then at the end, it was like super cool to find out, hey, it's a freaking alien. But yeah, and that scene has also got one of the manliest fucking scenes in all of cinema history, is the scene where he is doing talk about montage, the montage scene where he's setting all the booby traps for the Predator. And then he initiates the challenge to the Predator. He he lights that bonfire and just screams into the sky.
Yeah. Great creature effects by Stan Winston in that too, by the way. Like the first time you see the Predator take off the face mask and Arnold's just sitting there looking at it, and he's just like, ugly motherfucker. And, you know, I think the other reason I love that movie a lot too is like Arnold's not such a unbeatable guy in it. The Predator's handing him his ass several times throughout that movie. You know, it's because of those booby traps that is the only reason he overcomes it.
Yep. But yeah, there's just so many great one-liners in that film, and just so many great scenes. Like the scene where they just where Bill Dukes' character, oh God, I can't think. Mac takes the minigun and just Old Painless and just mows down that entire section of jungle.
Yeah.
There's that movie, and I think it was either the same year or the following year, you had another great Schwarzenegger film, which now I don't know how it did in box office. I remember seeing it as a kid on HBO as well, The Running Man. Or do we want to continue to talk about Predator? Because I can talk about Predator all day.
No. Running Man is great.
Running Man. Let's talk about Running Man. Running Man. I just want to say that Running Man, Arnold is great in Running Man, but Richard Dawson is better.
He's the show.
Dawson makes that fucking movie, and like, if you know Richard Dawson from Family Feud, I mean, and then you watch Running Man, it makes the show even better because that movie, like, he is just Richard Dawson. That's how you see Richard Dawson, except a little bit more evil. And like I could see Richard Dawson, like in my mind, Richard Dawson is that character, and he would do every single thing that he did in real life that he did in that movie.
So you're saying that Richard Dawson is in reality a monster?
He is, and I fucking love him. God bless.
It's the rarely seen behind the scenes of Family Feud. He would strap people to chairs and send them to some apocalyptic playground.
This is something that nobody does anymore, but this is something that Richard Dawson did all the time. And like,
oh yeah, I think I know where you're gonna go with this.
Like Richard Dawson
make out with the contestants.
Yes.
Like every single person that was on Family Feud, if they were a woman, he would fucking kiss them on the lips. And sometimes it was a long fucking kiss. And this is somebody's wife and daughter.
And he's like, I'm Richard Dawson, what the fuck you gonna do?
And he did it right in front of them. Now, if you don't think that guy is like, fuck you, there is anybody that can do that right in front of somebody's husband and not give a fuck.
How does he sit down with those balls?
Exactly. Richard Dawson, there is nothing I wouldn't think that man would do.
You think he sometimes when he's kissing them, he just kind of looks over him and goes,
I remember when they make fun of that in Family Guy, and he's like, also like, not only is he like kissing the female contestants, but he's like groping their chests.
Yeah.
Yeah, Running Man is a great movie. Also has The Body in it.
Yep.
As well.
But he's in it for a very limited amount of time.
Yeah.
But some very interesting cast of characters.
The fat dude that shoots electric out of his hand.
Dynamo.
Dynamo.
Dynamo is the one that I always remember from that movie, and I'm like, how the fuck is that guy the guy they picked to go against Arnold? This guy is like a rolling ball. And he's like, and he's just like singing fucking
opera.
It makes no sense, but it's fucking great.
So one of the things I really, really like about the Running Man is the dystopian future that it's just set in. The whole world built around the film is just amazing. And sadly, I can almost see it coming true. It's like American Gladiators gone horribly wrong.
Hey, did the Hunger Games steal their idea from the Running Man a little bit?
Could be. Also, Richard Dawson, speaking of Richard Dawson, he is, as far as I know, he is the only one in cinema history to ever have a comeback for one of Arnold's one-liners. And I have to say, I can't take credit for knowing. Rene was the one that dispensed this knowledge on me. But Arnold's infamous one-liner, "I'll be back." And what does he say, Rene?
Only in a rerun.
Of course. That goes along with his like, fuck you. You see me? Richard Dawson should have been in that movie with Tom Hanks where he's like, I'm the captain now.
So what were you saying, James?
Do what now?
What were you
I was just talking about you was talking about the dystopia future and the TV show. It just reminded me of the Hunger Games. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
Did they borrow that part? Yeah, but looking through their movies, these guys really had as many duds as they did blockbusters.
Oh, they definitely had some duds. I mean, there was quite a few duds in there.
But one thing that I'm not sure Schwarzenegger ever done that Stallone did, cartoon characters. Ants for sure. I mean,
I will say that I love Ants. Like it came out at the same time as A Bug's Life from Pixar. But Ants is by far the better movie. And I don't know why it's gotten basically pushed to the side. I guess because Pixar has become such a big company over the years. But I mean you had Pixar had Steve Jobs and George Lucas behind it. But Ants is a fucking great movie. And when you hear Sylvester Stallone and that big fucking army ant that's no longer wants to be an army ant, it's fucking great.
Well, can we talk about some of the early kind of 90s movies for them a bit? One of my personal favorite Stallone movies, and I've watched it not too long ago again, still holds up, is Demolition Man. Great fucking movie, man. And I fucking love Wesley Snipes as the villain in that too.
Well, you've also got
that movie does not hold up today, but I
No,
love
no.
it. It does. It is one of those movies that just doesn't hold up, but it is fucking great. Like, if you don't love the seashells scene, fuck you. Fuck you. And the scene where they have sex, the
Virtual.
like, and Sylvester Stallone's like, when are we gonna fucking do it? Like, it is a great fucking movie. I love that movie. And I have heard that they're doing like a sequel or a reboot or something of it. And I hope it's a sequel, because I do not think a reboot would do well. I would actually prefer to see a sequel to that movie.
I've heard it's a sequel. And around the same time, you had another Arnold movie that came out that I think is underrated. A lot of people don't seem to like it, but I've always enjoyed it. Is Last Action Hero.
oh yeah, to be or not to be.
Not
I
to
think
be.
I think what hurt the movie a bit was the fact that it opened up against Jurassic Park that summer, and that it was the follow-up to Terminator 2. So I think people's expectations were really extremely high for that movie. But yeah, I mean, that entire summer belonged to Jurassic Park, man.
You know, a lot of people want to talk about, we're all talking about action, but my God, that is a funny as hell movie. There is some super funny scenes in Last Action Hero.
Yeah. I love the
Speaking of Stallone,
well, you mentioned Arnold doing Shakespeare
yeah,
in that movie, and then when they go into a video rental place and the little kid's trying to prove that they're in a movie, and he goes up and you see the bottom half of the Terminator 2 Judgment Day poster, and as it pans up, it's fucking Stallone in the poster.
yep.
And Arnold's character is like, it was a great movie. It was his best performance, And that movie's just full of so many tropes. It's fucking great.
It's so self-aware.
Yeah, it's just Arnold making fun of himself for the whole movie, pretty much.
And is it Charles Dance, the guy from Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah,
is the villain in it, and he's so fucking great in it. But yeah, I've always thought the movie was underrated. And then I want to say that same summer. So besides Demolition Man, Stallone also had Cliffhanger come out that same summer.
Cliffhanger was
and
good.
I think that movie's fucking great too.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I recently watched it for the first time ever, like maybe a year ago. And I was like fucking hooked from beginning to end, man. It's a great movie.
I mean, Cliffhanger, the movie, will always have that is, for me, if I say you got a cliffhanger, it's not that you have a Sylvester Stallone movie. You got a booger hanging out your nose, bro. It's just Stallone hanging one-handed off the mountain.
Well, I want to skip a movie before we go on to this next one, because there's the movie. So I want to talk about comedic roles for a second. So Arnold had Kindergarten Cop, Junior, Jingle All the Way, and then Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, Twins. Can't forget Twins. But really, I mean, yes, you had like Tango and Cash, and even like shoot, the movie we were talking about earlier, Over the Top. They were comedic, but the only two real comedic movies that Sylvester Stallone really did was Oscar and A Stop or My Mom Will Shoot You. And I want to talk about those for a second. Like, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot You is fucking horrible. Horrible. But Oscar is a really good movie. So I want to take this moment to compare what I consider Arnold's best comedic role versus Stallone's best comedic role. Oscar versus Junior. Because Junior is fucking brilliant. That movie, Arnold has a fucking baby in this movie. Come on.
I've never been a fan of Junior. I will say, as a kid, though, I really enjoyed the hell out of Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way
down.
It's got the great Phil Hartman in it too, man.
Yeah.
Jingle. I will say that Arnold is a much better comedic actor than Sylvester Stallone. All of his comedic roles are great. And I am really looking forward to Triplets. I hope it finally gets made. It's been in pre-production for like 10 years now. And there's no movie that I'm more looking forward to than that movie.
It's supposed to be Eddie Murphy, I think.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy's gonna be the Triplet.
You know, I think they're filming Coming to America Part 2 right now.
Yeah.
And I really hope that doesn't ruin the magic of the first movie, because in my opinion, I think Coming to America is Eddie Murphy's best movie.
It is. I agree. But now let's get back. Oscar is a really funny movie. It did not do well. It was not a well-received movie. Nobody looked at Stallone and went like, "You're a comedic actor." No one thought that. And it did not do well. But it's actually really funny. And if you watch it, him as a mob boss losing his mind over his daughter is like freaking hilarious. But Junior, oh my God. I'm just going to say this. I have probably watched Junior more times than any other Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Because if I'm just sitting at the house and I'm like looking through like Netflix or my Plex account or anything like that, and I don't know what I want to watch, I go fucking watch Junior again. Because there is nothing better than that movie. And this is only because it's me and Roland. Me and Roland's the only ones that gets this. But whenever he says, "I want my Larry," I fucking crack up.
I want my Larry.
And if you guys have watched the cast, you've seen Larry Crowder on this cast.
I used to say that freaking Larry
all the time. I want my Larry. I love Junior. I think that Junior is hands down his best comedic role, and I will not relent on that fact, even to Jingle All the Way, because I watch Jingle All the Way every single Christmas. It is my Christmas movie.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that there's an extra scene in the after credits of that movie? Jingle All the Way.
I'm pretty sure I have. What happens? I can't remember right now, though.
So after the credits roll, it cuts back to the house, and Rita Wilson, who plays Arnold's wife in that, is just like praising Arnold, like, you know, what you did was so wonderful, this and that, but it's making me wonder. And Arnold's like, what are you wondering? Like, if you went through all of that for our son, what did you get me? And the camera just zooms in on Arnold's like face, like, oh shit, I didn't buy her shit.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah, for some unexplained reason, they made a sequel to it with Larry the Cable Guy
Yeah.
in the main role. I've never seen it, but I'll just go ahead and say fuck that movie.
Fuck that movie. I agree.
Fuck that movie.
Like I have not seen it either, and I will not watch it because fuck that movie. Larry the Cable Guy is no goddamn Arnold Schwarzenegger.
If you want to take somebody probably about as far from Schwarzenegger, yeah, then
don't
sure.
think
If
I've
you're
ever
going for the
watched
exact
that.
opposite, yeah. So
So-
guys, one thing we haven't mentioned one movie. I think we mentioned it in passing, but Total Recall,
Yes. Great fucking movie.
fucking an absolute wonderful film. So much that I like Total Recall, not just because it's a Schwarzenegger film. I just like Total Recall. I think it was a Pierce Anthony novel, or it might have been a Timothy Zahn novel. I want to say it was Pierce Anthony wrote Total Recall.
The violence in that movie is just fucking nuts.
Yes, and I actually went and watched it. And I watched the sequel or the remake, and fuck the remake.
The remake's
Yeah,
awful. It's just
They don't even go to
worthless.
Mars, man.
Yeah, they don't even fucking go to Mars. That fucking remake is total ass.
I mean, the original, not only does it have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, it has fucking Michael Ironside in it.
Fuck yes, it is.
I mean, and he's
Like an apocalypse, man.
he is fucking one of the greatest bad guys of all time.
Yes,
I
he
fucking
is.
love Michael Ironside. And like he's great in that movie. And the scene where he gets his arms cut off,
Oh,
fuck yes.
See you at the party, Richter.
I think everybody remembers the 3-boob alien in that movie too.
Yep. It's,
And plus, you know,
fucking,
he had Sharon Stone as a make-believe wife. I mean, come on, you know, you can't outdo that.
until she tries to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that happens sometimes, though.
That's
The one
that's called marriage.
the one-liner that always cracks me up in that movie of Total Recall is when some chick at the bar just grabs him by the dick and is like, "What have you been feeding this thing?"
The arms
And
mostly.
he just says blondes.
There's so many good scenes in that whole movie too. The Benny, the taxi driver, he's just like,
Yeah.
I got 6
So
kids. I got 6 kids to feed, and then at the end he's like, I got 5 mouths to feed. He's like, I thought you said you had 6. Oh shit, man, you got me. It's like, you motherfucker.
The one-liner that Arnold gives during the death scene of Benny is
Screw
fucking
you.
great.
screw you, Benny.
Laser freaking drill to him. Oh my god, so good. And then
So the ending of that movie has basically always been left up to the audience. Did all that shit really happen, or was it a dream sequence?
okay, so I own this movie on DVD, and occasionally I go back and I watch it multiple times. And the first time that I watched it, I was like, oh shit, this is really happening. The second time I went back, I was like, what if they're right? And this is all in his head. Like all of it just is. So it can just go any way. And every time I watch it, I can come to a different conclusion. That's one of the reasons the movie's so damn good.
What about you guys?
I always think it's really happening. I will never not say it's really happening. And I've watched it tons of times. To me, it always really happens.
And that's the best way to watch the film, as it's actually happened.
What do you
I
think?
think so, too.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I really do.
Yeah. I've always taken it as it actually does happen. It's not a dream sequence.
Also,
Yeah.
has one of the best Arnold death scenes in it.
Are you talking about the like the no breathing in Mars or whatever. The sequence I always remember when I watched that movie the first time is when he walks through the metal detector or like the X-ray machine,
Oh yeah,
and he just bursts through the glass of that.
Oh yeah. And then
It was always great.
The iconic scene where he pulls the head back, the disguise, where he's the fat woman.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's go to now. We've talked about this a lot, but before we get to the end here, let's just throw out a couple bad movies to end this on, because not all good movies came from Arnold and Sly, and there is two really bad movies, two really fucking horrible movies that I still really like. And the one by Arnold Schwarzenegger, y'all know what it's going to be. Batman and Robin. And the one by Sylvester Stallone is Judge Dredd. Now, we all know these movies, they suck some balls. But they are so goddamn campy that I love them.
Funny thing is, these are both two comic book films filmed in the early 90s when Hollywood didn't understand how to do a comic book adaptation.
Yeah, not at all.
Can I mention the worst movie that Stallone done that he wasn't in? Staying Alive, his disco movie.
He did Staying Alive?
Yeah.
I had no idea that he did Staying Alive.
Yeah, he like wrote it and directed it. Yeah.
Did he act in it though?
No, he wasn't in it.
No, I was like,
that movie is
uncredited cameo.
Well, he was also in Ron, so we talked.
John Travolta had it was actually directed by Stallone, and screenplay was by Stallone. And poor John Travolta got to be in it. So
it was
let me ask y'all something.
To what was the
Saturday Night Fever?
Saturday Night Fever, yeah. And
am I the only guy that I hate John Travolta movies? Is that terrible to say that I hate John Travolta movies?
I don't hate all of them. There's a couple of his movies I like.
I like a lot of John Travolta movies actually, but there's a lot of stinkers.
Face Off's the only one I can think of.
I like Saturday Night Fever.
I like.
Shit. It's a great movie.
Pulp Fiction. That was great.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction. Urban Cowboy, even though it's fucking stupid. I love Urban Cowboy.
Yeah, like for me, probably worst Arnold movie, I'll agree with Rocky. It's Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman by far, yes.
The fact that around that time, Warner Brothers was going to release a movie called Sub-Zero, which was a
fucking
Batman,
great film.
Batman the Animated Series movie. And they decided to hold back on it because they knew that animated movie was way better than the live action Batman and Robin. Should tell you how bad Batman and Robin was.
Well, I will put it this way. Like, in my mind, like, I know this isn't a fact, but in my mind, Joel Schumacher is fucking shit. Even though I know he did, like, The Lost Boys, 8mm, he did Flatliners, he did fucking great movies. But because of Batman and Robin, he is the shittiest fucking director that ever lived in my mind.
And let's not forget Batman Forever. He also done that one as well.
Yeah,
he ruined the Batman franchise.
He ruined
comic book
franchise.
movies.
Well, parents ruined the Batman franchise after people took their kids to see Batman Returns and got the fucking penguin biting people and bleeding out of his mouth to death, and Catwoman in S&M gear, basically.
Shaped my entire life.
So basically, Warner Brothers had no interest in bringing Burton back because of how Batman Returns turned out.
Well, I know,
You know?
Keaton was. We're getting off on a rant, but Keaton was actually working with Schumacher on Batman and Robin until he started, or Batman Forever, until he started really getting into the script. He was like, no.
The only
Yeah.
Part of
reason
that.
Batman Forever is any good at all is because of Jim Carrey.
Yep.
That saved that movie. Jim Carrey single-handedly saved that movie. If it wasn't for him, there would have been no Batman and Robin.
I love how Tommy Lee Jones is basically Joker light in that movie.
Yeah.
And have you guys ever heard the story of the first time Jim Carrey met Tommy Lee Jones?
Mm-mm.
So apparently they were at a restaurant, and Jim Carrey walks into the restaurant and he notices Tommy Lee Jones like in the distance somewhere. So he's like, "Oh, you know what? We're both going to be on Batman Forever. Let me go introduce myself or whatever." And so he goes over there, introduces himself, and says Tommy Lee Jones kind of pulls him aside or whatever. And Tommy Lee Jones basically tells him, I will not support your buffoonery, and just walks away. So Jim Carrey said he just like stood there and was like, "Whoa, okay."
All right then.
And then I don't know why Tommy Lee Jones thought he could out-ham Jim Carrey in that movie, but yeah, it wasn't good.
No, that was a bad film. But I love Arnold, and I love the character Victor Freeze. And Batman the Animated Series took a shitty 60s Batman character in the 90s and rewrote his entire backstory and made it great. And then we got that movie. And that film took a big, salad-rich, diarrhea-induced dump all over that character. But it did have some good lines like "Freeze in Hell, Batman."
But I will say that Batman Beyond redeemed that.
Yes.
Yes, it did. Anyway,
But,
we're going pretty
Well-
long right now, so I think we should just go ahead and sum this up and make our final vote counts. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, we're going on 12:30. So.
Yeah, we've been here for a pretty long time. So, what do you say, Roland? What Arnold versus Sylvester Stallone? Who wins?
Is there any? I mean, come on. Do you really have to ask me that? Arnold.
Okay, Rene, you're next. Arnold versus Schwarzenegger.
all right.
I mean, Arnold
So,
versus Stallone.
so before I give my answer, I just will say I think Stallone is the better actor, director, writer, all of that stuff. And I find his movies to be extremely entertainment. But Stallone's like a 9, Schwarzenegger's a 10, man. You know, it's really close, but I'm gonna have to go with Arnold.
Okay, Setzer. Arnold versus Stallone.
I've tried to lean the other way the whole couple hours that we've been talking about this, but I gotta go with Stallone. He never left us. You know, he didn't become the Governor. He stayed with us. He had Rambo. He had Rocky. He's definitely been the comeback kid that Arnold's not been able to be the last 10 years. So I got to just go with Stallone. I you know, and Holly hates Stallone movies. She will watch Arnold movies. So you know, I can't get why she could totally hate Stallone movies. But anyway, I got to go with Stallone.
Okay, well, I get to decide. I'm the deciding factor here. And I gotta go with my co-host, fucking Arnold. I mean, Arnold is the winner, hands down. I fucking love Stallone. I mean, Over the Top is one of my favorite movies of all time. But Arnold is the goddamn man, and always will be.
I gotta say, I gotta agree with Rene. I do have to give Stallone some credit. He is, I think, a much better screenwriter. He's a better director. He has some really awesome ideas when it comes to creating a movie. But there's only one Schwarzenegger, baby. There's only one Terminator. That's all.
Mr. Universe.
So
Universe.
can I ask real quick before we sign off? If Schwarzenegger is 1 and Stallone is 2, who would you guys put at, like, say 3?
Kurt
Because
Russell.
you put Kurt Russell.
Big Kurt Russell, hands down.
I don't even think there would be a 3. You would have to have a 4 or a 5, but I don't think there's a 3 after those two guys.
I don't know. I think Kurt Russell, the Fang.
Mine would be Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I can see that too.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from that one because I haven't given that enough thought. So
I would go with Kurt Russell just because he's fucking Snake Plissken.
Which is cool. You got a point there. I'm glad that I was on this podcast. Somebody had to pick Stallone, and I was going with Stallone before I even knew you three were going Schwarzenegger. So I don't know.
I will say this one was a hard one for me. I was like, do I go with Stallone or because I love Stallone movies, and I will say this before we go to curtain call. Rocky. My name is Rocky. You guys know that.
I would hope everyone does know that.
You guys all know that. My name is Rocky. I did not watch any of the Rocky movies until I was in my teenage years because I fucking hated being compared to those movies my whole fucking life. But then I watched them and I'm like, oh my fucking God, these are amazing. Why the fuck did I not watch these? So, Stallone's fucking great, but Arnold's still the man. He's the goddamn man. That's all there is to it.
I just hope Arnold could make one more good movie, either King Conan or something.
I hope
King
Conan comes out.
Yeah, because obviously it wasn't his fault. The last Terminator was not a big hit. It was just they just drifted too far from Terminator 2, and they tried to come back and pretend all the other crap movies didn't exist. So, I will
Arnold say it was better than all the other crap movies that they say didn't exist.
Yeah, it was.
What's that?
The last Terminator.
Genesis.
Yeah. No, Dark Fate.
Dark
Fate, yeah.
It was better than all
the 2019.
Yeah, that's the one where he's old man Terminator in a log cabin.
Yeah.
Which brings up a really weird thing that he settles down with a woman, and it's motherfucker weighs like a freaking 800 pounds or something because he's still made of twisted steel, and I guess elderly sex appeal in this movie.
But it was a platonic relationship.
Yeah, I was just like, it's really weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but the second I heard, John Connor dies in like the first 2 minutes of it, I was like, fuck that.
He gets wasted I'm like, all right, you have my attention.
Yeah, I'm just like, you spent 5 fucking movies saying us why this guy is so fucking important, and then you just kill him in the first 2 minutes. It's like, fuck you, movie.
Linda Hamilton aged worse than the Terminator.
You think so? I don't think she was that bad in those movies, actually.
She is a bad bitch in that film.
Yes, well, she always was in those movies. What was the other movie that I liked with her? Volcano movie. That was a good movie with her.
I don't remember the name of that.
No, that's Dante's Peak.
Yeah,
Dante's Peak.
The other volcano movie.
Volcano with
Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones and Anne Heche.
Oh yeah, the Dante's Peak was much better.
It's Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton.
All movies go back to Arnold. Right there you go. That shows how great he is.
Hey, we mentioned
I can go back to like a movie with Arnold in it.
He mentioned Pierce Brosnan, and we should have a talk about James Bond sometimes.
Oh shit, yeah.
That would be a good podcast. There's a lot of James Bond movies. But
Yep.
I
So
want to
many
come right
different
now
ones.
that Sean Connery's the best. And if you don't think that, fuck you.
And
How
well,
many
for
times
campy
do I
though,
say "fuck you" to the cat? I've noticed that I say "fuck you" to the audience about 12 times a podcast at least.
but you got to give Roger Moore credit. I mean, he brought a campiness and the comedic thing to James Bond.
But he was still kind of suave.
Yeah, and then Pierce Brosnan kind of suffered from poor scripts. I mean, the movies were good, but the scripts weren't that great. So
He did not suck
that's
as
another
bad as Timothy
podcast.
Dalton. Timothy Dalton was not a good Bond.
Although some of the movies weren't, the storylines were okay. It was just he wasn't a good Bond. So
Daniel Craig is actually, in my opinion, one of the best Bonds.
He's my number 2.
Because you're never going to
Yeah.
top Sean Connery, ever. And if you do, you need to have your nuts kicked in. I'm going to take you, and we're going to reenact the scene at the end of Casino Royale if you say that Connery is not a great Bond.
and we all know why Sean Connery retired, right? He didn't take the Gandalf role.
You know what's really weird? He went from Bond to Zardoz.
I like
He
that.
didn't understand Gandalf.
It wasn't Gandalf. It was Morpheus and Dumbledore. He said he didn't understand the scripts, so he didn't take either role. And then each movie won and made like $1 billion. And supposedly he was like, all right, the next script I read and I don't get, I'm just going to take it. And that turned out to be League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Ooh.
And
Another,
he had such a horrible time making that movie that he basically said, you know what, fuck it, I'm done. And he hasn't made anything in 17 years.
Nope, he's still alive. Him and Clint Eastwood the same age.
Yeah, it was just his
Clint's about
birthday
the
a couple
same
days
age.
ago.
Yep.
So
But that's another podcast.
Yeah.
That's another podcast. Well, on that note, guys, I think we're done for this week. Arnold wins by 3-1. Fuck you, sis.
Yeah, well,
You lose that.
Just let us know in the comments if you guys agree that Schwarzenegger's 1, Stallone's 2. And if you guys like listening to the podcast, leave us a 5-star reviews, man.
And email us at podcast@rolandrock.com and let us know what you think if you don't want to leave a comment. But on that note, we're out, guys. See you later.
good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
Until next time.